Did you guys catch this tiny moment at the end of Pluribus episode 3? After spending 3 episodes in an impossible situation, Carol finally gets an idea of how she could potentially get out of this mess. So what was that idea? Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and let's break down this episode of Pluribus and explain that ending. So this episode has many metaphors and themes. It's about capitalism, gun control, religion, AI, but mostly it's about Carol. This entire series is a character study into how Carol's brain works. So we open about 200 days before the joining as we see Carol through several blocks of ice. Now, in the shows Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan and his team were known for innovative camera work like this, placing the camera in unusual places to give us a new perspective on the environments. And they also employed this trick several times throughout the episode. It's a way to disorient us, so, like Carol, we're wondering where in the hell we are and what we are doing here. Oh, and quick note, all through our last video, I mispronounced Ray Seahorn's name as Rhea. I know somebody named Rhea, she spells her name the same way and pronounces it that way, so I just assumed that Ray pronounced it like that as well. I apologize to Ray Seahorn, her entire family, and everyone who ever knew her. Now, in this flashback, we see that Helen was the adventurous person in their marriage. She pushed Carol to try new things, while Carol's first thought was always about work.
What are you doing over there?
Looking for your cell phone. Val should have numbers by now.
Yeah, we can relate to that.
Yeah, I know, dude, you work way too hard. And Carol also hyperfixates on objects that are on the ground. Instead of taking in the beautiful ice sculpture or the wonders of the Aurora freaking Borealis, all she can think about is how awful it's going to be sleeping on ice.
How did I not realize that the bed would be made of ice?
Now don't get me wrong, an ice bed is the worst idea since Greedo's shooting first, but she can't even joke about this. She is 100% fixated on problems. Instead, she wants her bed, and she doesn't want to try anything new. And this, of course, is foreshadowing the rest of the episode, where Carol doesn't want to try anything new. She could fly to any place in the world. She could go to any marvel of nature. She could explore the hidden catacombs of the Vatican, but instead, she wants to stay home and watch the Golden Girls. And instead of having a world-class chef prepare her meals, she wants to shop at her local grocery. And in this opening, Helen is like the joint. She is a happy person who just wants to please Carol. And so then Carol has to reluctantly accept this moment with her wife, which leads into her final decision at the end of the episode that I'll talk about later on. Then we're back on the airplane and notice how they replaced the TGI Fridays waitress with individuals who were airline pilots in their old lives, all in an attempt to soothe Carol.
That's weirder than the gal from TGI Fridays. You doing this because she freaked me out?
That's an affirmative, Carol.
Much like Helen on the ice vacation, the joined are going out of their way to make her happy. Now, the last episode ended with Carol rescuing Zosha from Casanova McBoner. But see, this is interesting because she thinks that she is saving Zosha from the experience of being this guy's sex doll. But in actuality, Zosha's still going to experience everything that the other women experience with him. So I'm going to throw an idea out here. I'm not sure she rescued Zosha to be nice. I think that just like they intended, she enjoys having her around. In this episode, Carol's loneliness finally starts to become overbearing. In fact, she finally makes contact with someone like her, a grumpy man in Paraguay who hates what the joint have done to the world. And even that guy, another individualist, rejects her. Now, last episode, we talked about how the show is a commentary on collectivism versus individualism. Carol is the ultimate individualist.
I'm a very independent person.
While the joined are the ultimate collective.
We're consolidating resources to centralize useful items for distribution.
The conversation with the man from Paraguay shows the end result of extreme individualism, which of course is loneliness. And this is why later, Carol finally gives in and chooses to have a drink with the literal woman of her dreams. Now, I want to take a second to tell you guys about something pretty exciting that's going on in my life. See, I realized that I was gaining a lot of weight because I was stress eating all day long. I was eating without thinking about it, and I kind of just constantly needed some kind of oral fixation to help me cope with all of this work-related anxiety. On top of this, I have my facial tic, which I have struggled with for years. It turns out that instead of quitting cold turkey to get control of those bad habits, I just had to instead replace that habit, so I started using Fume. Now guys, I have been talking about Fume on this channel for years because it's one of my favorite products that we promote, and it's worked for me on so many levels. And I gotta be clear, this is not a vape or an e-cig or any kind of nicotine product. This is something totally different. A simple, satisfying way to replace bad habits without using anything harmful. Fume includes no smoke, no vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavored layer that gives you something to reach for without all the chemicals. Instead, it uses plant-based cores that taste great. My favorite is orange vanilla, but there are tons to choose from. And I know, you guys probably have your own bad habits that you want to leave behind, but sometimes you need more than willpower. You still need something physical to reach for, and Fume is that alternative. And I also love this built-in fidget feature that makes an incredibly satisfying sound. This is an award-winning flavored air device that you can use anywhere, and it is 100% nicotine-free. No batteries, no charging, just grab and go. More than 700,000 people have already added Fume to their daily routines, and I totally get why. It's simple, satisfying, and doesn't come with any of the downsides of smoking or vaping. And right now, if you order their Journey Pack using my code ScreenCrush, you will get a free Fume topper. It's this little rubber piece on the end that's great for chewing. So if you've ever been thinking about changing your habits, this is the perfect first step. Go to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to grab yours today. Now back to what I was saying. Now, as a special surprise, they have gathered up all of her mail, and this moment's actually really sad. This is a perfectly ordinary thing that we do every day, but this is the last time Carol will get to do this. It might be the last time anyone on Earth ever goes through their mail. But worse, it's going to be the last time she ever sees Helen's name on an envelope. And this moment is punctuated by a change in the score. And here we get into another of the show's main themes. The Joined have the sum of all world knowledge, but they have no idea how to actually apply that with human emotion. They think that Carol will like the massager because it came from Helen and it's going to make her back feel better.
You'd been so stressed out on the tour. You tried one in the Atlanta airport.
But instead, this creeps Helen out.
You're going to forget everything you know about Helen.
And notice that as she starts to think about her wife, there is a rack focus from her reflection onto Helen's grave. Now, last episode, I pointed out how Carol's reflection in this bathroom mirror was highlighting her loneliness in the world, where she only now has herself to talk to. And this shot is showing us that all she has left of Helen is her memory, which the Joined have also taken away from her. As I said in our last breakdown, the Joined are similar to the internet, more specifically the way AI delivers the internet to us. AI can create an image for you, like this one of Will Smith eating spaghetti, but it can't make that image less creepy to the eyes of a human being. As we see through this episode, the Joined have all the knowledge, but none of the instincts of the human race. So then she watches some great comfort TV, The Golden Girls. This is a classic 80s sitcom about a group of women with an unbreakable friendship. Even the theme song is about friendship. Now, in particular, in this episode, we get two monologues from Rose Nylon. Much like the Joined, Rose is a well-intentioned, kind of idiotic person. In the first episode, she talks about a woman in her hometown who would stand on her head so people could see her smile.
I pointed out that a frown is just a smile turned upside down.
And in the other story, she talks about how she volunteered to offer herself as a human sacrifice for some local druids. Now, this, of course, is foreshadowing Zosha, who sacrifices herself to save Carol at the end of the episode. But these stories are also about people who will go to any lengths to make others happy, just like the Joined. And by the way, props to the writers of this episode for combing through 180 episodes of the show to find those two monologues. Also, side note, I really like this shot of the show reflected in the DVD. It's another subtle way to show that Carol's life is not what it used to be. It's literally a reflection of the kind of life she used to live. And it also highlights her loneliness. The only other people in the frame with her are reflections of dead TV stars. Now, when they drop off the breakfast, we get another amazing shot from cinematographer Paul Donacci and writer-director Gordon Smith. The platter is shot in a way that at first we can't tell what it is, like it's some kind of strange alien orb, maybe a piece of technology that they can use to assimilate her. But then it turns out to be breakfast. But this is still kind of regarded as a weird alien thing because it is a sign of how the Joined cannot understand her. It's like they read her browser history or her memories on Facebook and they found a photo of a meal she liked, but they have no ability to understand the context of the original meal versus the context of this moment. They have all the knowledge, but none of the autonomy. And then Carol goes back to her favorite grocery store, Sprouts. I love this sequence. It's showing us how Carol's independence was actually an illusion. In fact, like if you're watching this and you think that you're an independent person, you're wrong. Because even if you drive yourself to the grocery store and buy food with money you made, that food is only there because of a vast interconnected supply chain network that is too complex for most of us to actually understand. Now, it makes sense that the Joined would also be gathering food to central locations, because now, instead of individuals going to the store for their own food, they would be setting up distribution centers and people to carry the food out to others, much like the way an insect hive works. And notice that when the friendly zombies pull into the parking lot, one of the trucks has ice cubes painted on the side and another actually reads iceberg, reminding us of that opening sequence moments where Helen, like the joined, was just trying to please Carol. Also, notice how the cinematography in the shopping scene is always framed to make Carol seem more isolated and alone. There is this shot from inside of her fridge where she only takes up about 25% of the frame. Then when she enters the store and she's boxed off by the doors. Inside the store where she is framed as an impossibly small object in this vast emptiness. And we also see there's always objects blocking us from her. So there's always something between the audience and Carol. We are being kept from connecting with her just like she is kept from connecting with the rest of the world. Hell, even the close sign is prominently placed next to the camera right here. And as the trucks pull up, she is in the bottom third of the frame to show her powerlessness. And as they load in the food, notice how the camera pushes in to capture her emotion as the joined blur by in front of her. This is also showing that she cannot connect with any of them. She is surrounded by people, and yet she is alone. And finally, when she picks out the cart, the camera is fixed on all of the unused carts. This framing once again highlights her loneliness, but we can also prominently see the sign, "Every meal is a choice," which is all that Carol wanted here, to be able to choose her own meal. Now at her home, I love the detail that they have programmed the caller ID to read, "This is us." Like, who else would it be? And this scene is where the AI metaphor really takes shape. She says sarcastically,
There is nothing wrong with me that a f***ing hand grenade wouldn't fix. You got one of those?
but the joined don't understand the context of the sarcasm, so they bring her an actual live grenade. It's like if you sarcastically said, "Alexa, play the worst song ever." Alexa off! Now the episode's title is Grenade, which has a few different meanings. There is the obvious one that a grenade is driving the third act of the episode. It's Chekhov's explosive, literally sitting between them when they talk. So when she invites Zosha in, I think this is Carol finally giving in to her loneliness. She is desperate to talk to anyone, so it might as well be the nice-looking pirate lady. She tells her that cheers in her native language means,
"May everyone be blessed."
which is exactly what the joined are trying to do to the world, to bless everyone. But when she has a drink, she's unable to actually enjoy the alcohol because she already knows exactly how the drink tastes. Hell, I think the joined don't just have the memories of others, I think they're constantly experiencing the memories of others all the time. And this is why she's not able to simply sit and enjoy the taste of the drink.
What gives this particular brand its distinctive smoothness? It's distilled from...
She also can't have a conversation or ask Carol any questions about herself because she already knows everything. She can only spout information, a lot like AI. In fact, this whole thing reminded me of a scene in Batman the Animated Series when a scientist tries to convince a robot that he's artificial.
I remember names, faces, birthdays. I have memories, a past.
You have information, data, nothing more.
Notice that the start of the conversation is filmed from below, with each character in totally separate frames, to show that even though they are in the same physical space, they are not really together. And when Carol is framed, it's used with a split diopter lens. So this is used to place two objects in focus that are at different focal lengths from each other. In other words, the grenade is really close, Carol is far away, but only they remain in focus. It's highlighting where Carol's mind is now. She's thinking about the grenade, and also that there is a metaphorical grenade between these two women. Remember, Carol could just scream at her and shut down the hive mind. In a way, Carol herself is a walking grenade. Now, in their conversation, Carol very quickly lands on their hypocrisy, that they want her to be happy, but they also want to assimilate her against her wishes. But the joined can't see this hypocrisy because, like AI, they can only understand their programming, or as she puts it, their biological imperative. Now, this is also a metaphor I've heard used to describe evangelical missionaries. They try to convert people to their religion because they're trying to save others from hell. But, as we saw in the opening, Carol rejects perfect bliss because her mind is always racing to the worst case scenario. Now, on her rant, we start to see her skills as a writer shine through, but then, brilliantly, this turns into her just reciting her memories with Helen. And when Zosha once again references Helen's memories, Carol finally reaches for that grenade. Now, I don't think that she actually thought this thing was live, but I also think that part of her didn't care. See, she has to be thinking at this point, what is the point of living? There are no other humans who can help her. There are no scientists. She is done. Either she's going to become one of the joined, or she's going to live out her life surrounded by mindless sycophants with no one to actually challenge her, understand her, or make her feel less lonely. So she pulls the pin. And even in this moment, Zosha still has to react politely.
Carol, if we may...
Now afterwards, the camera slowly glides through the burning truck, once again framing Carol inside of a box to show that she is alone. But the moment Zosha appears and we see that she's hurt, the camera goes kind of wild with a handheld running shot that moves directly up to her. And this is reflecting Carol's mind at this moment. She is frantic, and now she's actually reaching out for a human connection. She's broken down those boundaries that were separating her from others because she wants to help another person. And notice one detail here. We hear sirens. The Joined would have turned these sirens on specifically so Carol would know that they were on their way. And that takes us to the ending, which I think is the most important scene in the episode, and maybe a turn for the whole series. In the hospital waiting room, a DHL worker approaches her. First of all, notice how the camera is tilted on its side, just like the ramps were when they were unloading the trucks earlier on. This is showing us two things. One, that the world is flipped on its end, but two, this is not really a human being. This feels off and disjointed. It's also important that he is a DHL worker. DHL delivers packages, but they're mostly known for international deliveries. So this guy is a representative of that massive supply chain that I talked about earlier. After he delivers the good news that Zosha is going to live, Carol wants to dive into how this happened.
Why would you give me a hand grenade?
You asked for one.
Now here again, we see the Joined are a metaphor for the internet, where you can go into Google and learn how to make a weapon or buy a weapon. Now, Google doesn't care what you're going to do with that weapon, it just wants to help you find it. And this whole conversation also encapsulates another theme of the show, capitalism. Capitalism isn't based on morality, it is based on supply and demand. In a true, open capitalistic society, all goods and services would be sold at market price. The hive mind is the living embodiment of worldwide capital, delivering Carol whatever she needs when she wants it. But she finds a crack in their thinking. She begins to escalate the weaponry.
Okay, what about a bazooka?
Yes.
What about a tank?
Mm-hmm.
What about an atom bomb?
Now, I've heard this argument about gun control before. If it's okay to have an automatic weapon, then is it okay to have an explosive or a nuclear bomb? Where does this train of logic end? And the DHL guy finally hesitates.
Why would you want one?
Now, this is the second time we have seen the Joined hesitate or question orders. The first was when they refused to kill anything.
We don't kill.
Not even a lobster?
Now, in this instance, he says that they would, first try to educate her.
We would weigh the pros and cons with you. We would explain that it would be very destructive.
Similar to how, on most online platforms, there's that little warning that says that, this question might contain misinformation, but the platform will still show you that post. But then he says something really important.
Wouldn't necessarily feel good about it.
This is the line where we see how there is a crack in their hive mind. They can, quite reluctantly, express some moral judgment. See, Carol can't stand that the hive mind seems to have no element of choice. They're not being controlled, they're just always agreeable. Last episode, this was her main frustration with Zosha.
We can't choose.
Yes, you can. And there's a whole third option where you just tell us both to piss off.
And now she has finally seen a way to force them to have agency. So now, take all this back to the opening at the Ice Hotel, which is a real place, by the way. Helen was not like one of the Joined. She was not going out of her way to make Carol happy. Instead, she was forcing Carol into new experiences to make her change and grow. And I think that this is foreshadowing Carol's idea with the hive mind. She can force them into uncomfortable questions, which would make them finally take a stand and maybe even oppose her. She has realized that there are possibly limits to their people-pleasing. She could set up a whole series of moral quandaries that would force them to make decisions for themselves. And remember the book reading that started her whole story, where the hero pirate decides to jump off the plank?
With that, Raban mounted the plank and leaped from sight. The amaranthine slipstand closed over him, leaving nary a ripple.
That could have symbolism for later in the season. Now, I don't know if she has a master plan here. I don't think she has any idea how she could use this to save the human race, but she has seen a way to maybe finally have a decent conversation with somebody else. And right now, that's all Carol can possibly ask for. So guys, that's just our thoughts on episode 3 of Pluribus, but let me know what you thought down in the comments below or at me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or on our free to join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.